So this is what this guy drank. 7 eggs, a big tub of cottage cheese, quick grits, peanut butter, a banana, and Gatorade.
I could do that.
Oh, get out of here.
All right, let's do it. You're going to do it before the show ends.
I just had a big breakfast. We'll do it Monday.
We're going to do it before the end of the show today.
This is not what I signed up for. I thought I was going to be eating all these items individually.
Like an omelet?
Little scramby eggs right here, little cottage cheese.
This is why Stugotz said be careful what you say, because it might not have been what you meant, but now we're here.
All right, here we go.
Oh, no.
He started.
Oh, my God.
That doesn't help.
All right, bleep it.
Oh, my God, he's doing it.
Oh!
He's doing it. Oh, my God, he's going to puke.
Finish it.
Oh, my God. Swallow it.
Oh, it's in his beard.
Oh, it's in his beard. Oh, God.
Oh,
Oh.
my God, he swallowed it. Oh, my God, he's swallowing it. Oh, my God.
Ah!
Oh, my God, he's going to puke.
Oh, God!
Oh, my God.
Live from ESPN Studios in South Beach. It's the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
NFL players bothered because Michael Thomas is out here saying that's why we shouldn't sign the new CBA agreement. No way the announcer should be making more than 90% of the players. But Tony Romo's making more than he made when he was playing. Tony Romo played the highest paying position and made $9 million a year. Now he gets to literally be above it all while judging it all, never getting hurt, and making twice that.
Remember when Tony Romo got that gig and everyone said it was just entitlement and he didn't deserve to have that job? And how did he just retire and get the #1 broadcast team? And here we are a few years later. Highest broadcaster. Ever. Incredible.
I mean, John Gruden was paid $6.5 million a year.
Yeah.
Like this is a bidding war, must have broken out because it leaked somewhere that ESPN was offering $14 million. And those strategic leaks are always interesting because it's certainly not coming from the people who are giving the money. That's not where those leaks come from.
Especially
CBS,
when they're negotiating against an entity that has the right of first refusal.
That's right.
Tony Romo is going to make more than J.J. Watt, Odell Beckham Jr., Aaron Rodgers, and Patrick Mahomes this season.
It's a crazy number. And the reason that I find it interesting, right, beyond marveling at the point that Michael Thomas is making, what I want you to understand about all of this when it trickles down into college football and you know that there is so much money around these things that the players aren't getting, do you understand how much money everyone has to be making off of football for Tony Romo to make more than all the bodies that are colliding in that sport? It's not even hard for CBS to do that. It's not hard for ESPN to do that. And this is about someone, Stugotz, that I'm telling you, as great as I think he is, I don't think he moves the needle. I don't think that people would go from CBS to ESPN to watch a game just because of Tony Romo. Like, I don't think there would be, you know what would improve Monday Night Football's ratings is if we had a flex package that allowed us to put the best football games on there, and it wouldn't matter if you had two camels sitting in the booth.
What Tony Romo does is enhance a product that is already great. I agree with you that I'm not going to rush to a game just because Tony Romo is calling that game, but he does enhance a product that is already great.
But you don't have to pay him like that. It's a prestige hire.
Look, you do have to pay him like that if someone else is willing to pay him like that.
No, what I'm saying is no one has to pay him like that. ESPN wanted to make a prestige hire because Tessitore and Booger, whatever it is that you think of them, that doesn't make the splash that Tony Romo makes by ending up as part of your broadcast team. You immediately bolster your broadcast team by having Tony Romo be a part of it, but not in a way that's going to increase the numbers. CBS sees that. CBS says we can't lose him to ESPN, and so CBS ends up offering $3 million more per year than the initial offer.
Mo shouldn't have two camels in the booth. Seriously, the ratings are going to sort of bear out that you're going to save a lot of money. Tony Romo probably gets you more viewers than two camels. But how many more viewers?
Does
than
he
two
get you
camels?
more viewers? Put it on the poll, Guillermo, at Le Batard Show. Does Tony Romo get you more viewers on an NFL football game that you want to watch than two camels?
You can put them near the sideline. They're both wearing cute headsets. Yeah. I like that. You hear their noises, whatever they may be.
I think that would get old after a couple of games. I think it would be
Well,
novel the first
You got to
week.
switch animals. You can't just do camels every week.
Do the camels interrupt Jim Nantz? Because that's one of the great qualities of Tony Romo.
Oh, you know Nantz is looking at this contract being like, all right.
Wait a minute.
All right.
Wait a minute.
Nantz.
Nantz. How much is Nantz making? Nantz makes plenty. Nantz
Nantz
has
got a-
whatever, a recreation of Pebble Beach in his
Got a
backyard.
clothing line. Nantz is coming.
Oh, Nantz is.
Nantz is coming for you.
He does have a clothing line, yeah.
What does he
Lululemon,
make?
right?
I think it's Vineyard Vines.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
He
that's
owns
it.
Vineyard
No,
Vines.
No, he has
has-
a clothing line with Vineyard Vines. He does not own the company,
Yeah.
although it wouldn't surprise me if he owns a small
Yeah.
percentage.
Vineyard,
I mean,
Vineyard Vines presents the Jim Nantz collection.
and we're getting to Nantz's season. I mean, this is it.
Yeah, this is where
This is it. Yeah.
Oh wow! On the heels of this contract, Nantz is going to show you. Okay, all right. Tradition unlike any other. Okay, I'm going to give my necktie to some 19-year-old kid. You're going to love me.
Hold on. Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Is Jim Nantz beside himself with rage right now? Because Nantz is saying to himself, wait a minute. Romo doesn't have to do March Madness. Romo doesn't have to give anybody his tie at the Masters. Romo's just doing football. They basically, it's not, I want you to keep in mind, they just gave Romo $17 million a year in a season that doesn't have 16 weeks or that has only 16 weeks and then the playoffs. Like, he's got half the year off.
I am reading here that Jim Nantz is making $5 million a year.
Oh!
Oh.
Oh!
Oh my
Oh!
God! my
Jim
God.
Nantz is outside of CBS, and he has got a flamethrower, and it's burning all the plastic they keep on the furniture there. Like, he's just throwing flames there at Les Moonves. I'm sure there's some sort of centaur.
It's not there
Oh,
anymore.
that's right. He got me too.
Read a paper.
My bad. I forgot. I just always associate old CBS with Les Moonves.
You know you can't say read a paper anymore.
Yeah.
Like there are kids out there. Why would I read a what paper? What's paper?
Moonves no longer there. The plastic on the furniture is still there.
That's
though.
correct.
Yes.
That is correct. My bad, forgetting that he was one of those who got Me Too'd and scrambled out the door.
What's the modern day equivalent of read the paper? Like check Twitter?
Check the internet. Or
Yeah.
Yeah, check Twitter. You don't refer to it as the internet. Don't do that.
Google
Don't
it.
do that.
Yeah. You know Dan doesn't know who Sia is? What? He doesn't know who Sia is.
What?
And I sent him like photos of Sia, who's got a look that's sort of iconic because she shields her face. Yeah. She's had like all these huge music videos because they're super creative. Shia LaBeouf was in one. Great choreography, and you don't know who Sia is.
Well,
Shia LaBeouf?
Yeah,
I think
wasn't
he's,
he
I think he's back.
hitchhiking?
No, he's making good movies.
Yeah, he's back.
No,
He's-
but he was hitchhiking the last
Yeah.
we heard of him.
He is-
Remember?
he
is
Just getting
making-
in anyone's car.
It's quite the roller coaster with Shia, but he's back.
No, he is making artful, good, well-reviewed movies. He was for a while there going a bit crazy, where he had descended into the Wall Street world while trying to character act on something, and whatever. The Vices got a hold of him for a while, but he's actually making creative, artistic choices that stretch his range acting, and the only reason that I'm saying all this is to camouflage the fact that I don't know who Sia is.
She's, I mean, if you were to maybe like when her last album cycle, one of the biggest pop acts in the world. This is pop music. I'm very surprised.
But you think I'm listening to a lot of pop music? You think I'd be
I
listening?
think it's unavoidable. You didn't hear Chandelier? You never
I
watched
mean,
that Natalie
clearly it's
Portman
avoidable.
commercial?
I mean,
What do you listen to?
a lot of old blues.
Oh, my guy.
Jeez.
Thank you, Roy. I'm glad I have an ally there.
You got it.
You heard the Sam Cooke at my wedding.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I didn't.
You saw the band at my wedding.
Yep.
Missed that.
You didn't either. Yes, you didn't see the band. You
Stugotz
got
has
there
to
too
know who
late.
Sia is. I bet you Stugotz knows who Sia is.
I'm guessing if you come up on his computer, he spelled it
Googled-
wrong and then
You've
looked it
seen
up.
her at Jingle Ball or
I'm having
something.
password issues this morning, so I can't get on
Were
the
you-
computer.
yes or no?
Otherwise, I was
Yes-
going to lie and say yes. I know who
But
Sia
you were
was.
looking it up
daughters
too.
don't know who Sia is.
Yeah, I can't even get in.
I saw him. I saw his sausage fingers frantically making their way along the keyboard. But then because he's every bit as old as me, he doesn't know his password, and he's he got trapped there.
I know the old password. I don't know how to reset it to a new password because the old password has expired. Michael, I'll need you during the break.
Yeah, I know. I'll be in there.
Stugotz you know what? I've lived with him so long in our marriage that I could sort of feel when he's cheating on stuff. Like I felt he was doing something over there that he shouldn't have been, and I didn't do the math immediately on what it was. And then, of course, it's to mask that he didn't want all of your eyes of judgment that were raining down on me to end up on him.
And what was going to happen was he would Google it if he nailed the spelling on CS.
Well, that's the other
which
thing.
is just 3 letters, but it's always an adventure with him.
The CIA keeps coming up. ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Pick from a range of coverage options with the Name Your Price tool to find a price that works for you. Tune in tonight for college basketball action as Baylor battles Texas Tech. Coverage begins at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app. Here's your SportsCenter update. The Lakers defeated the Pelicans 122-114 to sweep the season series. LeBron James, 34 points, 12 rebounds, 13 assists. Zion Williamson, 35 points, 7 rebounds. Deontay Wilder has exercised his rematch clause to fight Tyson Fury on July 18th in Las Vegas. Wendy's has breakfast now. Wow. We're talking fresh cracked eggs on every breakfast sandwich. Yep, it's going to be America's favorite breakfast. Download the Wendy's app for deals on your new favorite breakfast. You up for this? Wendy's breakfast. I'm up for it. I'm in. See you at Wendy's in the morning. Available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the SportsCenter on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
More than Stu from the Clevelander on ESPN Radio.
Happy 50th birthday to our friend Bill Simmons.
Happy birthday to you.
Wow, now we have options.
We have multiple happy birthday options from Stephen A.
And that is a birthday. The anarchy of somebody making a lot more money than other people in the sport who are mad about that person making a lot of money.
Why is it anarchy? I mean, it's funny. Tony Romos making $17 million to do 16 games. Or no, 17 games. How many games does he do?
Well, you're not counting the postseason, too.
Right.
Ah, yeah, those are free, though.
It's basically, it costs you about $1 million to get Tony Romo to fly to your city.
Look, here's the thing, guys. You said that
Oh,
if
boy.
it was just a broadcast team of camels, that everyone would watch it, right? And then you immediately said after like 1 week the camels would get old and you have to replace them with other animals. Well, we haven't replaced Tony Romo with any other animals, so he's paying for himself.
Okay, there you go. I really do. You've heard me talking for years about my just general frustration that broadcast booths don't take more chances, especially now where live sports are literally the only thing that anyone has to watch at the time that they want to watch it. You can't, if you really care about it, you are not going to be the person. Maybe some of you do this. I know some people who don't watch stuff until the next day in sports, but then black out their day where they're not checking with any communication and hoping that nobody calls them to ruin anything and hoping that no one texts them to ruin anything. But what you have in these sporting events, live sports, is the ability to get people's listening habits and viewing habits to be the same that they were 40 years ago when there were only 3 networks. And it's the only thing that consistently does that. And it doesn't matter if Bill Walton's on the game. It doesn't matter if Tony Romo's on the game. It doesn't matter how much you complain about Joe Buck. It doesn't matter how much you hate Bob Costas back when Bob Costas was doing it. None of it ends up meaning anything. So basically, what you just saw happen between ESPN and CBS was just a bleep measuring contest. It was just all ego. It's like we think, and ESPN would have made a splashy hire stealing Tony Romo from CBS. And CBS is like, we can't let that happen. And so you're right that all you need to do to have value is have one person assign that value. One person in the world with money has to assign that value. And then because CBS had the right to match, they just waited it out, got it from $14 million a year, which was plenty. $14 million a year being more than twice as much as John Gruden made in that role.
Right. Well, why take 14 when you can get more? It's called leverage, Dano.
Thank you, Stugotz.
Imagine what that voice would have sounded like on Monday nights, though, Dan, talking to Tess. And you know he would have called Tess Jim at least 2 or 3 times in the first couple of weeks, which would have been awesome.
It's so true. That would have happened, right? That would have been inevitable that would have happened. Put it on the poll.
No problem, Tone.
Le Batard Show. Put it on the poll. Would Tony Romo have accidentally called Joe Tessitore Jim throughout the first season on ESPN? Because I do think that having learned at the knee of Jim Nantz, how mad is Jim Nantz? Like Jim Nantz probably letting it. What is the backstory that we know? Hasn't Chris Sims told us that Phil Sims and Jim Nantz don't get along because Jim Nantz sort of pushed Jim, or the feeling in the Sims family is that Jim Nantz didn't support Phil Sims enough. And Tony Romo was the new broadcast bride. And Chris Sims told us that, right? I'm not imagining that. Chris Sims told us that there was that he personally, as the son of Phil Sims, had hard feelings toward Jim Nantz.
He's selling $248 quarter zips.
What?
He'll be just fine.
He's what?
Don't
How
worry
much?
about him.
He's what?
$248 quarter zips.
What's that?
They're like sweaters that only go down a quarter of the way.
Oh,
Right.
what is it?
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
It's
Okay,
the
okay.
Nantz line.
Yeah,
it's the
sorry.
Nantz line. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, since you're there, go ahead and tell me what is on there, Billy, because you immediately went there. Billy, keep in mind, Billy sort of works on the show, but usually he just sort of gets distracted.
I'm in the trenches,
by
Dan.
whatever we're talking
Yeah.
about, and then gets lost in a rabbit hole for an hour through the internet. And
Supplemental
That was,
info.
yeah, that was supplemental info.
that was that
helpful.
time, but it's not always helpful. Sometimes he just drifts off for a couple of
But let's
segments.
sit in it.
Wow.
This is one of the good moments.
We also got some half zips here, guys.
Yeah.
You'd think a half zip would cost more than a quarter zip because the zipper
Yeah.
theoretically is double the length,
yeah, it's an
right?
additional quarter.
No.
What?
Half zip's cheaper. $145 for this half zip. You can get it in gray,
Is
that
it
from a
blue,
season, I
or
guess?
brown.
It must be out of season.
I mean, is anything out of season in the Nantz collection? I feel like.
This is the season for
This is.
Just
Yeah.
This
the
is the
season.
We're on
season,
the
right?
E.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the tricky thing about this line of clothing, right? There's lots of, as you would guess, polos, different kinds of sweater variations.
The sweaters are all to be
sweater
worn
vests.
around the
vests.
shoulders, right?
Yeah.
They're not
There's
to be-
one brand of sweater that just comes that way. You can't actually put it on.
No, there's
the arms are sewn together.
There's
Right.
It's just
sweaters
like you
here.
Take it off and you put it over your shoulders.
There are sweaters here designed to be worn under other sweaters, just so that you're aware. And if you were to be confused by the models on this page because they're wearing shorts, no, you can't get Jim Nantz shorts, just sweaters.
Yeah, Jim Nantz won't ever wear shorts.
So what is the price range that we're talking about? Is the most expensive thing in the Jim Nantz collection the quarter zip?
It looks like the $248 Morse quarter zip sweater is the most expensive. That obviously pairs well with the 17-mile performance vest that would go over the quarter zip sweater.
What goes into the performance vest?
Yeah, 17.
Why
It's
is it
everything
why
Nantz
17?
wears. I mean, it's amazing.
There's like 4 layers of Nantz on this model right here.
Oh, wow. Well,
Yeah.
What are we performing? Like what the performance vest? What is the performance? Does it come with like a microphone and you just stand in front of a golf course and
Not
talk?
talking during someone's backswing. That's one of the performances.
You'd think that a 17-mile vest that obviously is sleeveless, wow, full zipper on this one, would be cheaper than everything else, but no, $168 with no sleeves on this thing.
Forgive my ignorance here. Why 17 miles, not 18, not 16? What's the 17-mile vest? What does that mean?
That's just
It's
the
one
name
for every
of it.
million Tony Romo's getting.
Aquí lo que importa es el catch.
Is that a typo? Is it a 17 mil vest? There's not an E in there? Like, Did you read that wrong?
He's throwing shade already.
There's only 7 left in stock, by the way. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, it's Nantz season.
It is the season of Nantz.
Wait till Romo gets his own collection, though.
Oh, man.
Why are we so fascinated by Jim Nantz? Like, I remember we talked for 3 days about Jim Nantz working out to, like, the hardest of hip-hop.
Because I've always truly believed Hell Hath No Fury, like a Jim Nantz scorn, but we haven't seen it yet. But just behind the scenes, I always feel like the man has a legendary temper. Like, you don't want to cross him. Like, it's never happened, but everyone knows you just don't cross Jim Nantz.
Well, didn't Romo just cross him?
We'll find out.
Well,
Find out together.
yeah.
Your partner is telling you to fix something on the car. Go to Advanced Auto Parts. They will help you find out what is wrong. They will tell you how to fix it. They will fix it for you. Tell them, Stugotz.
Yep, spring is your chance to make your lawn look like the perfectly trimmed work of art you watch your favorite team run across on TV. But before you get to work, make sure you can get to work. Advanced Auto Parts will test your lawn and garden battery for free. And if it needs to be replaced, grab an Autocraft lawn and garden battery starting at just $22.99. Incredible deal. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think advance. Only at Advanced Auto Parts.
You're listening to the sensational Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Chiefs are better without Patrick Mahomes. I wrote that in the first half, man. I regret that. Mike, you kept that in there. A terrible job out of me. I'm going to blame you. That's $2. I'll pay the fine. But you're supposed to edit these. But you wanted it in there because I'm a dope. Latest headlines and information. Tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
By the way, the joke that was made inside of that Judge Judy conversation where you just heard someone shout salary cap, I want you to think about how stupid the salary caps are in sports, because what just happened with Romo is what happens when there are no salary caps. Like, that's how it happens. You get
That's Romo in a free market.
That's exactly right. Like, Michael Thomas, if you don't want Romo making more than you need to collectively bargain the salary cap the hell out of there, because those owners don't need fixed costs. They allow their businesses to never depreciate because they have fixed costs. The bodies are fixed on what it is that they can cost. And It's why Garrett Cole is out here making $324 million because baseball's union simply wouldn't go for a salary cap in any way. But I'm boring you with things you don't want to hear about. The entire shipping container has descended into the internet rabbit hole of Jim Nantz items. So what have you found? Billy has been researching furiously all Nancian things.
Well, I want to apologize because I was distracted by the texture and the pattern of the Pescadero Houndstooth Performance half zip, and I didn't realize at the time. Dan, if you were to go onto the Vineyard Vines website and have a promo code or whatever, a discount, something, right, to get these at a discounted rate, no. Every single Nantz item has a little asterisk next to it that says not eligible for discount.
All of them.
No
Every
discounts.
single one.
Yep.
The same goes for Viacom when this contract's up.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just say Pescadero? Is that a fisher? It's Jim Nantz fisherman's gear?
It's actually a fisherman's houndstooth, Dan. It's for a little colder weather up in Pebble Beach. When you go out on your boat, you're trying to, catch a little bit of here and there.
Fly
and then,
fishing during your off time.
Yeah,
Exactly. That's what he does. And speaking of Pebble Beach, it's called the 17-Mile Collection, named after the 17-mile drive at Pebble Beach where Jim Nantz lives.
We also got to thinking, because when you wear your Pescadero Houndstooth, obviously it's probably going to a boat day, right? So we're like, what kind of boat do you think he has? And the only way I can describe it is how I Googled it, and it's just expensive wooden boat. Yeah. I don't know the name of the actual boat, but if you Google expensive wooden boat, you'll see the exact boat that Jim Nantz has.
How big is it?
Well,
is it like a pirate ship?
No.
Is he going to war across his Gulf Lake with his neighbors?
His boat's definitely called Hello Friends, right? Yeah, with a $sign as the S.
Wow. You think he goes $sign?
No, well, he can't anymore because Romo took it. What do you have there on information on the wooden boat? Tell me more about this? Tell me as much as you can about the wooden boat that Jim Nantz owns.
Yeah, if you Google expensive wooden boat, you'll see what I'm talking about, and you'll immediately realize, this is probably the type of boat that he has. It's something for like a calmer water, maybe a lake, or maybe if he's going through the channels in Venice. Yeah, it's not something that you take out into the open ocean. This is for like a leisurely, boat ride day.
Something that allows you to just drink your Arnold Palmers as you drive around.
Well, no, he has a driver, obviously.
Dan, you know what it is? It's like the boat from Caddyshack that they christen and the bottle of champagne doesn't break. A part of the boat breaks. I am telling you. Now, the young kids in the studio have no idea what I'm talking about. But you, Dan, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes, there is a famous scene. Yes. And I do think, by the way, I saw you, Mike, make a face. I do believe we've talked about this before. The verb on a boat is also drive. I know that some people go captain, but it is driving a boat. I think I said
boat
that.
Driver, though?
I think the verb is to drive.
I think he has a Commodore.
He probably does have a Commodore, but Dan, you remember in Indiana Jones where he's running away from the people with the fez hats and he jumps into that boat and they're going into the propeller of the cruise ship? That's the boat we're talking about. Nice Italian leather, some teak wood maybe.
Mahogany.
I know what Stu's talking about with the christening of the ship in Caddyshack. That's a sailboat. It's not it.
Yeah.
You idiot.
I honestly pictured one of the boats in Game of Thrones. That's what I was picturing, something with a cannon. Can you tell me, Billy, because I am super curious about all of this, can you find out what that boat cost? And furthermore, as it relates to the Jim Nantz collection, because there's so much stuff there that we are enjoying. How much did you say the Pescadero hat was? Because I feel like we should buy some of those and wear them around here.
It was a quarter zip, Dan. Quarter, not a hat.
Wear hats. Silly.
It's crazy that the less the zip, the more expensive.
So wait a minute. I thought the Pescadero was a hat. Didn't you say houndstooth? I thought you said. I assume houndstooth is a hat.
Oh no.
Horrible taste. A hat with that kind of hair? I mean, you serious?
Houndstooth hat. This isn't Bear Bryant, Dan. Get out of here.
Jesus, you guys really rained down on me. Made me feel very vulnerable there for thinking that the word houndstooth goes with a hat.
Wow. Guys, I just found a nice 1961 Grenfell 21-footer. Just 40 grand.
Oh, wow. That's affordable.
Steal.
That's affordable.
Aquí lo que importa es el catch.
I am now stuck with this visual of Nantz wearing a Bear Bryant's hat.
That's what I thought they were describing. I missed that was just a pullover, that was a quarter zip. We can't afford it. We can't afford. There are no hats in the Jim Nantz collection. None. Zero.
Zero, Dan.
No. No hats.
We're on to the boats
No
now.
shorts. Yeah.
Quarter zips are $248 per pop, and there's only 6 remaining. I mean,
How about boat shoes and deck shoes?
5 now. This is a status symbol. I had no idea.
Oh, he's got one.
I just found a 1959 Riva 19-foot Super Florida Hull 400. 95 grand.
Oh, wow.
Halvesies?
Expensive
halvesies?
wooden boat. We can get to work on it. I'm thinking that Stugotz's trip in would be faster if he chose a boat. I'm not kidding, because he'd avoid all
I thought about it.
I've often thought about this.
He'd avoid all the rush hour traffic.
I've often dreamed about getting like a jet ski that's like at like the Coconut Grove Marina and just jet skiing over here.
Would you believe, honest to God, I'm not making this up because I'm looking for a home. I have actually considered the very same idea, avoiding traffic from Key Biscayne by just taking a jet ski over. I'm just afraid of what happens when I'm 15 minutes into the ride and I conk out in the middle of the sea.
Yeah.
Mike.
A FaceTime from the middle of the ocean.
Mike! Allison!
The 10-bedroom apartment on the beach getting a little cramped. I mean, let's.
Yeah, you got to think about married life. You got to think. Did I not tell you about the apocalypse zombies who are around my house at 3 o'clock in the morning? The Black Tux people, do not go into your next event looking like Stugotz. Use the Black Tux. Get yourself a decent suit. Tell them, Stugotz.
I'll tell you about Black Tux later on. I'm supposed to tell you about ZipRecruiter right now. When it comes to scoring great hires for your business, you may be up against a few obstacles, like an overwhelming amount of resumes. Too many applicants, but not enough of the right ones. Trouble spotting the most qualified candidates in a sea of possibilities. That's why you need ZipRecruiter on your team, no matter the industry, healthcare to manufacturing to business services. ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier, and now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. First, when you post a job on ZipRecruiter, it gets sent out to over 100 top job sites. Then ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology hustles for you to find people with the right experience for your job and invites them to apply. In fact, check out this stat. 4 to 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. To try ZipRecruiter for free, simple. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. That's ZipRecruiter.com/DAN. ZipRecruiter.com/Dan. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
You're listening to the sensational Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
You that he's not even going to understand the call from your show. Like, what are you talking about? This is Nantz season. I'm just checking my bank account on how many quarter zips I've sold while floating around drinking Arnold Palmer's on my wooden boat.
I think anytime his assistant tries to talk to him, he just waves a hand and says Nantz season.
All right, but we're trying regardless to get a hold of him. There are a couple of things that I want to get to, but I am just curious. Put this on the poll. Are you scared of the coronavirus yet? And the reason I bring it up is because I was reading that people know so little about this, and generally people are so dumb, that the poor executives at Corona Beer are like looking at each other and their stock prices are going down. Now, this is sort of, it's sort of fate in that the way Corona became popular, to my understanding, I'd like to actually look this up, if someone could, please, and tell me whether what I'm about to say is true or urban myth. But as I remember it, Corona was one of 3 Mexican beers. Dos Equis and Tecate were the 2 others. And Corona was just like them or beneath them. And then all of a sudden, Corona got popular in the United States. And it got popular in the United States because at happy hours, it had the lime on the end. And people were like, look at that. That's cool, the lime. But the lime was something Mexicans used to keep flies away from the Corona. So it wasn't actually this trendy, popular thing that was a better beer. It was just charged as a better beer because it had a better image, because it had a lime. Again, that was meant to keep flies away from the rim in Mexico. So now these Corona executives are looking at each other and they're like, why couldn't it be the Budweiser virus? Why couldn't it be the Michelob virus? Like, why the hell did it have to be the coronavirus where we're getting crushed by stupid Americans who made our beer popular because they're stupid Americans?
Yeah. You know that old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity? I present to you the coronavirus. It's down 38%. No. 38% of Americans say they will not try it under any circumstances, given the current coronavirus hysteria. Which is, yes, dumb, but you kind of understand.
No, you don't.
No.
During the outbreak, when it first happened, there was actually a surge on their web traffic because everybody's Googling Corona and getting their web. So they were like, you know what? Hey, coronavirus
It's
positive.
It's such
6
bad
weeks
luck.
later,
Such
not
bad
so-
luck. I mean, imagine you look up. Imagine you're not with Corona. You're somewhere else, and all of a sudden, a Budweiser seltzer virus makes an appearance.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the hell?
Now that's surging. This XFL, the Seltzebrations, it's the greatest thing. They need to do this in the NFL. I look forward just to seeing all the videos in the Bud Light Seltzer Victory Lounge where they just go in and spray Bud Light Seltzers, and everyone's trying to top each other now with their Seltzebrations. Amazing.
One of the things that has happened around here, we are proud of the fact that when people come through our environment, they get to showcase their best selves, and opportunities emerge. Opportunities emerge for most of the people who come through here and are their best selves. And Stugotz and I were supposed to discuss on Friday some opportunities that he has, but he missed dinner, of course, because he's Stugotz. But also, Mike had an opportunity this weekend that he chose to wear a pink jacket, like a really loud. This was
More of
Nantz
a rose
collection,
gold.
yeah.
Rose gold.
It's not rose gold.
It was it was a loud jacket. It was absolutely a statement jacket. Like that was that all? Did you buy it for your appearance? Mike is doing a lot of things with soccer. He's got a popular the most popular American soccer podcast is Mike Ryan's on Chelsea. Did you go out specifically and buy that jacket so that you could put sunglasses on it so you could look specifically like that while styling on the field during the pregame of MLS?
I was going sport coat shopping, and I was like, the pink one should be nice for the repertoire, and I did time it out for this. Yeah. Sports coats, amazing. They dress anything up like that.
It looked expensive. You looked like you knew something about style.
Dan, it's called drip, and Mike had it, and I approve.
I mean, he looked great. He really did.
And there were people that were making fun of me, and then Carlos Vela, the best player in MLS, showed up in the exact same jacket.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Is that good or bad? Is that good? Is that because women hate when they
Jack-
show up at a place and they're
Jack
wearing
my
the same
swag.
thing as someone else?
Jack my swag. His hair is amazing. Leave-in conditioner is a key.
You looked very good, but you also looked very Miami and incredibly douchey.
Doesn't get any better than the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
here because LeBron keeps doing the thing. Stugotz says that every once in a while LeBron will have to remind some people that he's still the best player in the game, and these people are peers or the young up-and-comers. He's averaging 30, 10, and 10 against Luka, Trae Young, and Zion Williamson.
Right, and they're 7-1 in those games.
And so it seems clear in retrospect, it seems clear that he was just injured last year, and that what happened was those 16 games, they were fine. They were a 3-seed or a 4-seed, and then he missed 16 games. And then when he came back, there were a number of times you saw him and he didn't look like himself. There have been a couple of times this season where he's going up for a dunk and he gets, he hits the rim and he's not like, he doesn't look the same way that you're used to seeing him look when he's jumping over, John Lucas Jr. to dunk the ball.
He's got better teammates, and I think it was John Lucas III. So that's a
fine.
$1.
Is that a fine?
Yeah.
That is a fine?
Yeah. I mean, LeBron used to be the guy to take Matthew Dellavedova to the NBA Finals or Larry Hughes to the Finals. And last year, he showed that he's no longer the guy that could lift a bad team to not just the championship, not even the playoffs. I understand he was hurt and allegedly battling through that when he came back. He did the playoff 0 dark 30 mode, remember? And they lost like all the games because he nuked the morale on that team because he tried to trade them all publicly. So he's not the same kind of player, but if you surround him by the right pieces, he's an MVP candidate.
That's what's happened. He's right back to the top of the sport where it is odd to say because of his age. Like, that's not supposed to happen. And I do believe, because I've told you a number of times, Stugotz, I am old enough to remember how cruel and mean you guys were to Michael Jordan before he won the titles. Like, I remember how much you questioned him as a ball hog and a guy who couldn't win because he was putting up a 60 against Larry Bird in the playoffs,
Right.
and his team was losing.
You didn't even know me then, but you knew I was doing it?
There were so many people doing it, and I think we've done it to LeBron. Like, it's actually a very poor reflection on the intellect of the sports fan in terms of being able to appreciate what feels like unprecedented greatness as it's happening because we bring such judgment to it. I mean, we were comparing Michael Jordan, and I remember it, to Dominique Wilkins. We were saying, like, you can't win like that.
Right.
That the reason that he loses in the playoffs isn't because he's got to get tough or anything else. Now, think about what he was playing against, right? He was playing against total thug ball. The rules were different, and so he was just getting dismantled by the Detroits of the world.
You know how LeBron sort of changed the math in winning titles when it came to the Jordan comparisons? Well, one in Cleveland and ending that city's curse means, like, I don't know, like 2 of Jordan's rings. Has there ever been a star that's won at 3 different places?
If he does this, Mike, if he does this, I understand that some people will still do 6 and 4 on him. But if this year, if he can knock out Greek Freak and win 3 titles or 4 titles in 3 different places.
What if Kawhi does it, though?
I mean, well, if Kawhi...
Wow, I forgot about that race
Right.
because I thought the comp was Shaq. Shaq came pretty close because he got to an NBA Finals with Orlando. But that's how you change the
Kawhi
map.
is not
You just
gonna-
go all over the map and someone has a fond memory of you.
I don't feel like Kawhi is ever going to be able to be LeBron because he wasn't covered. For as weird as it is to say, because he was in the finals winning a championship when he was in his early 20s, Kawhi has done it so quietly that he hasn't gotten the decade-long infomercial of here at all times is LeBron James talking about a taco. Like, every bit of thing that comes out of LeBron James's mouth becomes a content item in a way that Kawhi just doesn't have that kind of fame.
I think we'll build the narrative around him if he eliminates LeBron this year, especially with that team, because we already started doing it with him as a Toronto
If he does it to
Raptor.
LeBron and Giannis.
And Giannis, yes.
Yeah.
yes.
Like,
But what
we
if
did this
LeBron
last
does
summer.
it? What if LeBron does it to Kawhi and Giannis?
And then LeBron's back. LeBron's all the way back, and it's his league at 35 years old.
That's
which
the
is
crazy
insane.
part. That's the not just 35 years old, 35 years old with more mileage on the odometers than any 35-year-old has ever had in that sport. Ever had, because of the minutes. He has played so many postseason minutes that he's basically played an extra season in the postseason.
International ball, too. Kobe had a lot of miles because when you start getting into the guys that were stars right away from out of high school.
I mean, Kawhi did do it last year to Giannis and then did it to the Warriors and did it basically by himself.
He didn't do it to like the Warriors as we knew it.
But I really
to your
feel
point,
you
though,
have to stop doing by himself. Like given the
We're going to give the Raptors supporting
I mean, they're
cast
going to
some
win
credit
60
by
games.
himself.
They're going to win 60 games this year without him.
Yeah, but they were doing that before Kawhi got there, and they would always choke in the playoffs.
Still, it's a different team. It's you're saying by himself, but they had 2 All-Stars this year. They did have 2 people in the All-Star game.
I understand, but I have Kawhi winning 1 by himself, and I have LeBron winning 1 by himself. They're even. I'm not doing anything for Kawhi that I wouldn't do for LeBron James.
Okay, but when you look at the second best player that LeBron James had, is he going to have had the career that Pascal Siakam is going to have?
Kyrie Irving?
Kyrie?
Yeah, he has a better career than Pascal. Right
You think? You think? No,
Well,
that
right
he's
now.
that he's going to have. That he.
Yeah,
that,
probably.
Do
I mean,
you?
Kawhi's probably. I mean, Kyrie's probably going to win another title, right? If you think Durant and Kyrie are going to win a title,
I don't think they're. Well, regardless, it doesn't matter whether I think they're going to win a title or not. You guys think that by the time it's done, Kyrie Irving is going to have had a better career?
I'm no Kyrie fan, and this year has kind of been a disaster. Sort of skip a year for Brooklyn, and he's coming off of that Boston mess. But let's pump the brakes on Siakam.
Well, how old is he?
I know Siakam's shown like incredible growth, but like I'm not putting him in the Kyrie class, and I don't like Kyrie as a player. But come on,
Really? Hold on a second
Champion.
here. Let's
Siakam's 25 years old.
Let's talk about this for a second. And Kyrie's only like 26 or 27, right?
Yeah, but at 25, that's kind of who you are. Even if you're Siakam, who was like incredibly raw when he came into the league, like I don't think Siakam's going to get that much better.
Kyrie is 27.
Can you look at the numbers for Siakam this year, the first year where he's allowed to be the centerpiece of a team, and the efficiencies of Siakam? I understand. I wonder what you're doing
I'm doing
there.
a respect for the game. Like this is his first year as an All-Star, and he was good, certainly in stretches down the postseason, and his growth has been amazing. And Kyrie's on sort of like a downward trajectory, but come on, Kyrie was, second biggest shot in NBA history. Let's relax.
He's 23.5 points per game, Siakam, 7.5 rebounds. Field goal percentage is 45%, which is actually down from last year when Kawhi was there, making the game easier for him. So, I mean, he's down in terms of
that's what
percentages. He's up in
happens.
numbers, but he should be.
But that's what always happens, right? What always happens is when your star leaves, the guy who comes in next ends up averaging the 23 because someone has to average the 23, and his efficiency percentages go down because it's easier to stop him when you make the usage rate so high that you wear him out and he's not, getting your primary defender. But still, it can't be disputed that that the Toronto Raptors are going to win more games this year without Kawhi Leonard than Kawhi Leonard is going to win with the Clippers. That's not a small thing. When you're confused by the Toronto success and you keep going to Nick Nurse can coach, and their central player on a team that will probably not make it very deep in the playoffs this year either, because Boston or Milwaukee will probably end up knocking them out.
Yeah, but Kawhi, he proved it to us last year. He builds those teams for the postseason. I mean, they do the maintenance plans over there with the Clippers. Him and Paul George haven't really played together all that much, considering Paul George's injuries and their nights off. They have the playoffs in mind. They really don't care about the regular season.
They've won 4 straight. The Raptors have lost 3 straight.
And quite honestly, that team without Paul George and just Kawhi, not much better than what he had in Toronto last year, probably even worse.
Can you guys help me with something, though? Because I don't know what it is that you want Toronto to do. And I understand that a Budenholzer team won 60-plus games in Atlanta. You didn't trust them, and you shouldn't have, because LeBron ends up knocking them out of the playoffs. But can you explain to me what it is that you need to see from Toronto for to buy in? If I can't impress you with Toronto winning more games than Kawhi, without Kawhi, the season after losing Kawhi, if I can't impress you with that, what the hell can I impress you with?
Nothing. Seriously. The Raptors have to win a title without Kawhi. Then I'll be impressed.
Okay, but also the Warriors have to all get hurt at the same times to make that possible, because it's the only reason the Raptors won. Everything fell apart in Golden State in a physical, obvious way.
Yeah,
And
it's a shame, though. It's a shame they had all those injuries because it was headed towards the end of the dynasty. All those dynasties end ugly. And Durant already gave voice saying that he made his decision before the NBA Finals ended Achilles.
fair enough, but I mean, when you lose Clay and you lose Kevin Durant, and then the next season Steph Curry is broken, and the Golden State Warriors are among the worst teams in the league this year. Draymond Green looks useless without the other three guys covering for him.
I wish I had the ending to like the Heat run that the Warriors had, because all their fans can just say, we got hurt, and that's what sort of nuked everything, when it was probably at its logical end.
It seems like in your personal record book, Dan, Kawhi did not win a title last year. Proud of you.
Let's go. My private jet isn't going to fuel itself.
I'm just saying you're giving Kawhi an awful lot of credit, and I was amazed by his mercenary nature too. I was amazed by it too, but a lot of things had to happen to make that possible. And Toronto, I'm just trying to get you to stop saying that he didn't have any help.
Right, but what had to happen was Kawhi had to sit out and all that stuff. But also what had to happen was Lowry and DeRozan continuing to go to the postseason every year and losing every year in the first
I think this is the thing, though. I think the stink of DeRozan is so lingering that you're still blaming the Raptors and still not trusting the Raptors because of DeRozan.
So if they bring DeRozan back and win a title with him, then they'll impress me.
But that's okay. That's what they have to do, because I do believe, put it on the poll, Guillermo, is Toronto handicapped by the stink of DeRozan? Is your belief in Toronto handicapped by the lingering stink of DeRozan? Casper mattresses are some of the most comfortable you will find on the market. We all have them around here. Tell them why, Stu, guys.
Yep, we've all heard of Casper, the sleep company with outrageously comfortable products at not so outrageous prices. And with their current end-of-season clearance, you can save up to 20% on the mattress of your dreams. Save up to 20% on mattresses now through March 3rd. Offer expires March 23rd, 2020 at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. Save 10% off the Essential, 15% off the Casper, or 20% off the Wave. Limit one offer per customer and order. Additional shipping fees apply for Hawaii, Arkansas, and certain areas of Canada. Please see Casper.com/terms for additional terms and conditions.
The best in the business, Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
I cuddle and I spoon because I'm old and I'm small.
Big spoon or little spoon?
He's always the little spoon. He's always
Well,
the little
I don't
spoon.
know.
How can
Let
he
him
be
answer.
How can he be a big spoon? He can't be.
He's 144 pounds, little spoon.
Check him out on demand in the Dan Le Batard Show podcast, brought to you by Capital One. With Capital One, you can open a new checking or savings account with no fees or minimums. Welcome to Banking Reimagined. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One N.A., member FDIC. Dan, it's time for Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless.
Well, here is my straight talk, and it is a threat to the monopoly that Will Cain thinks he has on the truth. But this is my truth.
Whoa.
In the last segment, I forgot about Kyrie Irving being LeBron James's teammate. And then I started forming the argument on behalf of Siakam because I had forgotten. It is something that we in the media, the biggest of the gas bags, do all the time.
We call it the cowherd.
I call it the Stephen A. Smith, the first take.
It was actually, if we
And the
get,
Wilbon. It could be the Wilbon, too.
It's really the
number
origins
of
of
people.
Patient Zero was Chris Carter forgetting to put Calvin Johnson in his top 5. And then just doubling down. Remember that?
Defending it to the death.
It was great. It
Just
was
say you
yes,
forgot.
yes. Okay, so I did forget, and then I started formulating the argument on behalf of Siakam.
CC.
So,
All he does is catch touchdowns.
Bo. He wore number Bo when he played. So I have put out a call to Amin Elhassan and Brian Windhorst to see who they would say is better between Siakam and Kyrie Irving. So come on here with us. Amin Elhassan will be the first one to join us. Explain to me, what is the answer to the question, who is the better player, or who's going to have the better career? I don't even know what
How
the
can
question
Dan
is.
be right?
How can I be right is the question.
Yeah, it's a little tough. Kyrie, obviously, from a skill level standpoint, he's one of the best ever in terms of the just things that he can do with a basketball on the court. There aren't many players in the history of the game that rival his, especially considered he's not really excessively athletic or really big. He's just a fairly normal-sized guy who's able to compete out here and be great at it. And he's got a track record of doing it for a while. Multiple All-Star games, multiple All-Star game MVPs, obviously a championship with Cleveland in 2016. Having said that, Pascal, even with a shorter resume, his growth in 3 years is pretty much unprecedented. I don't think we've ever seen a player improve like that as quickly. And he's got the size, obviously, and he's a far better defensive player. So I guess if you're asking me who's had the better career, I'd say Kyrie without a doubt. If you're asking me right now who I'd rather have on my team, I think I'd go with Pascal Siakam because he's more well-rounded, and also I know I don't have to deal with any of the shenanigans that you have to deal with.
Well, actually, what I was asking you, who's going to have the better career, which gets hard to answer given Kyrie's body.
Yeah, the injury obviously factors in, so that makes it a lot tougher. And obviously he plays with Kevin Durant, so that makes life a little easier for him as opposed to Siakam, who is the best player on his team. But I guess you could say it like this. When Kyrie was the best player on his team, how good did that team look? And how good does
that's what and thank you. I mean, I appreciate you always being available to us for your expertise.
Here's how I do it. Kyrie has one title as a 2. He's dreadful as a 1. Siakam has one title as a 2/3 because Kyle Lowry was there. So Siakam needs to win one as a 1, and then he's better than Kyrie.
Your measurement is always thank you. He says.
Yeah.
Thank you. He says as if anyone was throwing flowers on the stage.
Well,
he's
the
saying,
shipping container was, and that's all I care about.
No, because you were just hitting the note you always hit, which is I just count rings. All I do is different countings of rings.
Well, I mean, what else is there to count?
So, I mean, thank you for being on with us. I appreciate it. But Windhorse is busy right now. He said it's a simple question with a complicated answer.
Oh.
But he can't come to the phone right now because he's busy. So
if we can't get Windhorse, we're never going to get Nantz. Yeah.
We're still going after Nantz. Mike does not believe that Jim Nantz knows who we are.
He might know Stugotz. He might know Stugotz.
How did Stugotz not know why the 17-mile collection was what the 17-mile collection was as our resident golf expert who knows all about the Pebble Beach stuff?
Super Bowl week, Dan. That is Straight Talk. It is brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Everything for less, only at Walmart.
There is nothing better than the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
You don't have to see all that stuff. I mean, it's a little unfair what you're doing to me. I got to be honest with you. I feel very insecure. I'm on an island here by myself.
You know what? You're right, Bill. Pan all the way out.
There's a TV screen behind you and not an actual window.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Clippers owner Steve Ballmer is in advanced negotiations with the Madison Square Garden Company to purchase the Forum in Inglewood, California, in a move to build a new 18,000
have to be the most inventive team in the league. They have to be, because they saw it wasn't good enough, and in the middle of the season, they just said, Russ will be our center. And he's been super efficient, and they've been good as well.
Yep, 39-20, won 6 straight. How about they invent a way for them to win themselves a title, though?
There it is. Okay,
Yep.
so getting back to what you were doing in the last segment, where you were making Siakam win a title this year to prove himself to you.
Yeah, well, he's got to win one as a one.
Okay, I understand, but this is what just happened, okay? I want you to understand that you, who doesn't care about being consistent at all, and I understand that you want to do this with just titles, but if winning is indeed the measurement that you're going to use to measure these people, Siakam is presently having a season that Kyrie Irving has never had as a number one. Like this, we have only seen Kyrie Irving do nothing but lose and foul up the Celtics as a number one. So using your measurement of winning is the only thing matters, Siakam is presently having a season Kyrie Irving has never had. Kyrie Irving is a career loser when he's a number one.
Right. Well, he was a number one on some really bad Cavalier teams.
He was
no talent around.
He was a number one on a good Boston team.
It's a good point.
And he nuked it.
And they went to the Eastern Conference Finals without Kyrie Irving. So that's fair. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and those guys were the guys that took them to that Eastern Conference Final. It's a fair point. It's a totally fair point.
This is what Windhorst says, okay? Windhorst is answering the question. I'm asking him, how much better is Kyrie Irving as a player than Siakam? And his response is that it is a simple question with a complicated answer. Siakam plays at both ends and can defend multiple positions. He's much more valuable than Kyrie in that way. He's also low maintenance in the locker room, not an offensive superstar. Kyrie is a spectacular offensive talent who can win you games, but is fragile and emotional, also poor on defense. Neither one is a number one. Most teams would love to have either. So it's not as much of a difference as it would appear to not be as much of a difference as you think. It's reputation. It's winning a championship.
If you ask LeBron right now, in just a purely hypothetical world, just, hey, you could have Siakam or Kyrie Irving 100% healthy for the playoff run, who do you think he'd choose? Probably Kyrie, right?
We're also looking at it right now, where Kyrie's stock on the heels of the Boston stuff and him being hurt yet again and no one generally liking his attitude, his stock is pretty much kind of like at an all-time low. Whereas you look back when he was the number two winning a championship, Siakam, for as good as he was, I'd say Lowry was probably the number two in that NBA Finals series, despite not really ever being a good playoff player before that. So who's the better number two on a championship team? Easily Kyrie Irving, because he was the number two.
And he made the biggest shot, or one of the biggest shots in NBA history. Guillermo, put this on the poll. More annoying phrase, having said that, or I will say this? Because Jeff Van Gundy loves I will say this instead of just saying it. And we just heard you said that. So I don't need you to tell me that you have said it.
I think it's listen.
Thanks, Mike.
Stugotz's biggest verbal crutch is listen.
I think I will say this because I don't want to hear you say that, basically. I don't want to hear what you have to say. I don't care.
Okay, very good. So you don't want to talk to anybody. You don't want anyone to say anything to you.
I don't want anybody talking.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Weird industry he chose. I mean.
And you're actually a very active listener. As someone who doesn't want anyone talking to you, there is no one who's listening more to the things happening on this show than you are.
That is true.
I wanted to ask you guys this question because I don't know whether I know what I'm married to, okay? I'm aware I've stopped getting disappointed by Stugotz. I've lowered my expectations to a place where I just don't expect much from him.
I've noticed that. I mean,
okay, and so
refreshing.
So there are opportunities that Stugotz has in his life, as there are every 18 months. There are opportunities that Saucer Eyes has in his life. And Stugotz
usually requires an investment.
Stugotz wanted to talk about this on Friday. We went to the Heat game, had a great time with the Jimmy V winners who paid way too much money to hang out with us. But Stugotz nuked my ability before the game to take these people to meet Pat Riley and Mickey Arison because of what I'm about to tell you. And it's okay. We did it at halftime, but Stugotz nuked it. I tried to make plans with Stugotz. I'm like, happy hour, 5 o'clock on Friday, and then we'll go to the Heat game. So I'm at happy hour, 5 o'clock Friday. 6 o'clock comes around.
Oh, boy.
And Stugotz is like, I'm on the golf course. I'll be there shortly.
You did say closer to 5:30 at one point.
I did, but you came closer to 7:30. You arrived.
So, yeah.
You arrived in the area. Now, one of the things Stugotz has lived here so long that he still doesn't know the difference between Miami Beach and downtown. Like he was lost. He thought he was staying near. Well, this is what he said. I don't know what.
Such a sucker. You keep falling.
No, Billy. ESPN was nice enough to put me up in a hotel because we were doing the Jimmy V night. Okay, and I'm telling you, I had no idea until I actually started driving to the hotel that the hotel was in downtown Brickell, right near the arena. I had no idea. I couldn't get there from the links to that hotel and then back to Dan for a nice little dinner before the Heat game. I couldn't get there and back in time. I didn't time it out correctly because I have no idea how to navigate around the city. I don't.
Okay, you've lived around here a long time, but what level of mad am I allowed to be that a meeting that Stugotz requested to discuss his life, he stood me up for 2.5 hours and nuked our ability before the game to introduce the winners to these important people.
You should be 9 on a 10 scale, considering that he has GPS on his phone.
Were you waiting at the place for him?
I mean, I was there with my wife, so it was fine. But yes, the only reason we were there was to have this conversation with Stugotz.
I would say 10 out of 10, but I mean, this is amazing what's happened with Dan. 17 years in, I think.
I just sort of shrugged.
You're not even mad at me.
No,
but
no. Valerie asked me. She's like, "Aren't you mad?" I'm like, "It's Stugotz. Like it's the reason I chose nachos and tequila because."
See, but this is interesting because I was wondering if Valerie had said that to you. If she asked, "Aren't you mad?" I was wondering if that ever happened.
What she's asking is like, where is he? It's weird to make a meeting with somebody and then you don't show up for 2.5 hours. Like that's not normal human behavior.
If it was a meeting, why was your wife there if it was an important business meeting?
Because I don't trust Stugotz.
Aquí lo que importa es el catch.
He's such a nice person, Billy. Such a kind soul, Dan is. He needs someone there.
Oh, trust me when I tell you, I have ceased being the gatekeeper on these things. Most people can't get into my life anymore.
That's a perfect move, actually, now that I think about it. If you're going to get stood up, just bring someone else because then you won't be alone.
But I'm also anticipating, like, the expectation. I would be mad if I'd been sitting there by myself.
Yeah, but when you said 5, I figured I'd get there at 5:30. When you pushed it back to 5:30, then I said to myself, I'm going to get there at 6. I mean, that's what happened.
You didn't get there by 7:30?
This is a big place, this city of Miami.
What happened? Did you get close to the place and then turn around by the time you got there? Did you even get closer? Were you lying to me?
What happened besides Super Bowl week was I did get to the parking garage. I offered to drive you back to the Heat game. I mean, I made a totally unnecessary drive. I never made it to the parking lot.
The Black Tux. I have used the Black Tux. I can tell you they rescued me in an emergency. Tell them, Stugotz, why they should be using the Black Tux.
Yep, the Black Tux believes every groom deserves a better experience when it comes to finding formal wear, a suit or tuxedo for their big day. Did you know the Black Tux was actually started by 2 guys who had one of the worst tuxedo fittings you could imagine? It turns out they aren't alone in this frustration. Just listen to these 1-star reviews from competitor tux shops that shall not be named. Go elsewhere. This place is pretty terrible, unless you are dressing like your grandpa for Halloween. We felt weird buying a suit from somebody so unhappy. We were afraid his bad vibes might follow us to our wedding day, so we left. Whether you are buying your outfit or looking to rent, you won't find a formal wear experience or designs like the ones you'll find at the Black Tux. Everyone on this show has used the Black Tux. We love them. We swear by them. They're fantastic. If you want your wedding to be remembered for the right reasons, order your suit or tuxedo at theblacktux.com and enjoy 10% off with code Dan. That's theblacktux.com, code Dan for 10% off your purchase. The Black Tux. Formal wear for the moment.
There is nothing better than the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Who's separated? Because I'm seeing bets being taken in the other room about what your take is going to be.
Just do your thing,
So
fella.
just do your thing,
Okay, I'll just do my thing. All right, fellas, I will do my thing. The reason they won't get it right is, A, there's a bunch of Stugotzes. They wait until the very last minute.
Wait a minute. The bet was whether he would start with the word listen, right?
No, that's a surefire winner every time. We were taking wagers as to whether or not his voice would sound good his first sentence on the
really?
show. And we believed in you. Anthony, Billy, and myself, we believed in you.
Good. Okay, because the first sentence is very dicey. I probably would have bet the first sentence, it's always very dicey. It takes me a couple of segments to warm this thing up. I mean,
Okay,
it's
anyway.
like an engine.
All right, we interrupted. It's a very poor engine on a jalopy.
Today is for doing, and today, Louisiana State University celebrates Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. Mahmoud. Well, then someone wrote this wrong.
No, it's spelled, I think, with an H and pronounced as a K.
Super Bowl week. About 30 years ago, and at the time, named Chris Jackson.
I'm no one to be correcting anybody on names, by the way. Like I no one is worse here. I am the worst. So but I do know that one.
All right. Mahmoud was spelled Mahmoud.
Yes.
Okay. Easier to spell when his name was Chris Jackson, right? Anyway, about 30 years ago, and at the time, named Chris Jackson, Abdul Rauf spent 2 years at LSU before being drafted by the Nuggets in 1990. Man, was he good. On Saturday, the Tigers retired his number, 35, as they went on to beat Texas A&M. Today is for doing, and it's brought to you by the Home Depot. With everything you need to do projects smarter, faster, and easier, welcome to today's Home Depot, how doers get more done.
Stugotz's weekend observations are coming in 10 minutes. But, Billy, why were you saying to Stugotz, man, you're really good at lying during the break? Are you guys thinking that...
This is not something that's going to be done on air today. Stugotz is he's despicable.
What do you mean?
That's the only way I can describe him.
I just gave you something to think about. That's all.
Well, no, what do you mean? Why is it not going to be described today? Stugotz came in here and says, man, Chris Cody has mastered the 3-day weekend. He knows how to call in with some sort of sickness or something that's not real. And what happened? Where'd the conversation go? With
it was 3 phases. The first one was him just floating out there. Where's Chris? And then there was kind of like, well, he has an issue and, whatever. And he goes, man, it's always a Monday. Anyone else ever noticed that? Always on a Monday with him. And then we're like, okay, Stugotz, this seems like it's out of his control, whatever. And he goes, guy leads the league in long weekends. And then walked out and I'm like, Stugotz, this doesn't seem like something that he would make up, the situation that he's saying, whatever. It seems like, he's like, you really need to learn how to lie. I need to teach you how to lie. This guy's mastered it. And then walked out.
Well, I sat down with Chris. I mean, you and I have yet to do so.
So you don't want to get into the details of how you marveled at Stugotz. I don't know any of the details. I don't know why Chris is out today, and I see that you're avoiding pieces of it, but...
Well, because it's none of my business. It's not for me to put out there.
Well, I've already put it out there, though, and Stugotz thinks he's lying.
Bill, we're in too deep at this point, all right? The way the conversation went was Chris usually tells us the morning of, but he was in the emergency room with his wife for strep throat. To which I said, who goes to the emergency room with strep throat?
She's hospitalized. She stayed there overnight.
Okay, right. So...
Right?
I understand that.
Yeah.
Billy said to me, we usually find out about these things on Monday morning. But Chris told us last night.
Yeah.
And I said, that's to cover your bases. And he said, explain to me how that works. And I explained to him that if Chris tells you this morning that he has spent all night in the emergency room with his wife, you will quickly fire back. Why didn't you tell us last night this was going on and give us a little warning, little heads up that you might not be at work the next day? And Billy said, man, you're good. And that was it. And so I offered to sit down with Billy and give him a little,
a tutorial,
one-on-one lies. Yeah.
Well, Billy, you were claiming last segment to be a master and yelling at me. How could you believe that Stugotz was at the parking garage because he said he was at the parking garage? You were the one telling me that you can't believe anything.
Well, you can't believe anything Stugotz says, but I tend to believe Chris on this one. He let us know yesterday. Now, granted, If I'm going to be honest with you, there have been some that I'm like,
Put it on the poll. Is it suspicious that Chris Cody's every ailment lands on a Monday?
I put Billy in a bad spot here.
Well, we both did. It wasn't Billy didn't ask for any of this.
I didn't ask for any of this, Dan. Super Bowl week.
So what's coming up in 10 minutes are Stugotz's weekend observations. But did someone indeed catch Tom Brady? You guys are always making fun of me for using FaceTime. Did someone indeed catch Tom Brady FaceTiming Mike Vrabel while at a basketball game?
Edelman did it too. Like they were FaceTiming together. Vrabel's their pal, and they were FaceTiming at the game, and people invaded their privacy. But you're kind of asking for it when you do the FaceTime in public, man.
That's a pretty good one, though, in terms of getting out. Like, I don't know how guarded Tom Brady is because Tom Brady's old, so maybe he's having some technology issues the same way that I'm having.
Probably not,
It was
though.
Edelman, though. It was Edelman,
Yeah.
who appears to be a bit of a meathead.
So a bit of a meathead he is. A bit was not necessary there.
Just covering my bases.
But the idea that Tom Brady might get caught in a surprise is probably right, where he wasn't expecting that particular invasion of privacy. But if I were trying to increase my leverage, if I were somebody who wanted to publicly put pressure on my organization, my fan base to get scared because I might leave, there are only 3 coaches or 4 that could have come up on that FaceTime, and they happened to call the one that was most beneficial financially.
Ah, buddy, this is the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
All right, Chris, go ahead and get started. I'm going to get going now.
Oh, God. It's all right.
Chris has to touch it. Oh, God.
Quit
Oh,
dripping
no.
it on me.
Oh, no.
Oh, it's poop.
Oh, no.
It's like poop.
Put
Put less on me so it doesn't drip.
Oh, God.
Oh, this is making a mess. This is getting bad. You fool.
Oh. Yeah, you got to
my
smear it in, Chris. That boy. Smear it in. Like eye black, yeah?
I am not kidding you that I...
Christopher's literally going to throw up. Oh, my God. It's cold.
Greg's handling it like a champ.
I can't look at it.
Please.
How's the gird?
Well, we're girding it. Gird Cody. We're, It's like a mask. All right, that's enough.
Stugotz's weekend observations are coming up in about 1 minute, but if you were listening on the radio and you just heard that story of me at a testicular ultrasound, and the last line from Stugotz is, sounds like he had a ball. This is what Jorge Sedano did yesterday talking to LeBron.
Thanks, Dave. LeBron, another masterful performance by you, your 13th triple-double of the season. How much fun were you having out there? It looked like you were having a ball.
That's pretty good.
That one, there's some degree of difficulty on that one, a little bit, because we're running out of phrases to give these guys. Want to wish a happy birthday here real quick to friend of the show, 49-year-old Method Man.
Happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. All guests on the Dan Le Batard Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Here's your SportsCenter update. Strap it on. I think the Jaguars will use their franchise tag on defensive end Yannick Ngakoue. Oh, close.
So close.
Giving them an opportunity to trade him. Ngakoue held out at the beginning of the first 11 days of the previous season's training camp, wanting a new deal, and will most likely do it again under the tag. In women's basketball, top-ranked South Carolina defeated number 12 Texas A&M. Excuse me, power through it. To win its 23rd consecutive game. They will finish the SEC regular season play at 16-0. 4th time in conference history that's happened. Congratulations. And finally, congratulations to Mike Golick Jr., who reached the summit of Mount Kilimanjaro. That is amazing.
That you know how to pronounce Kilimanjaro.
Exactly. SportsCenter brought to you by Bolt 24. It's advanced hydration for athletes off the field with antioxidant vitamins A and C, electrolytes from watermelon and sea salt, and no artificial flavors or sweeteners. Bolt 24, all-day hydration for all-day athletes. For all the latest headlines and information, tune the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
It is time for Stugotz's Weekend Observations.
It is time for Stugotz to share his game notes. No one in the media will tell you what happened better than my boy Stu.
Weekend Observations brought to you by Vivid Seats. Download the Vivid Seats app and enter promo code ESPN25 at checkout to get 10% off your next order. Don't buy just any seat. Get a Vivid Seat. Dan, with potential landing spots of Indianapolis or New England, the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton, is back. Pinehurst 2. Go bleep yourself.
Wow.
People who think they are good at golf, go play Pinehurst number 2 on a 46-degree day with winds blowing 20 miles per hour in all directions. When you are done, let me know how good at golf you think you are. How is it? People stand in line for 10 minutes at Starbucks, get to the cashier, and have no idea what they want.
It's so funny.
It's annoying, man.
Yeah.
You had 10 minutes to figure it out. Stop yapping to everyone online.
Yeah.
The Bucks are 52-8.
They're really good.
Milwaukee Bucks, quietest 52-8 start in NBA history. The Bucks have been stuck at 8 losses for a while now.
You can't rule out the Warriors' record. You really can't.
They're beating. He's playing 30 minutes a night, and they're beating everybody by double digits.
The Milwaukee Bucks are giving up less than 90 points per game over the last 3. In today's game, you know what that means their defense is doing, Dan?
Shutting them down.
It means their defense is suffocating.
Oh, suffocated. My bad.
And they should still be better. 40 points, 20 rebounds, and 5 assists in 35 minutes. Jesus. By the way, that wasn't a Jesus like Jesus. I'm impressed. I call Giannis Jesus now because he might actually be Jesus.
The Greek Jesus.
He's unbelievable. Report. All signs indicate Titans tackle Jack Conklin is going to sign with the Jets, even though the two sides haven't spoken. You know what that means they exchanged, Dan? A wink and a nod.
Oh,
That's what they've exchanged, Dana.
Okay, very good. I'm sorry. I
A
didn't know
wink
that.
and then a nod. Yeah,
Right.
it's like a
Both
wink followed by one of these. You
both
know, you
of
lift
them.
the net.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those. Yeah.
I know what a nod is.
just
Stugatz.
making sure.
I appreciate the elaboration, but it was unnecessary.
You know what a wink is? And what kind of report is that? Ridiculous. The NFL is closely monitoring the coronavirus. Question: is anyone else? Trey Adams. I would have given the same exact answer. Headline: leaked video of Trey Adams saying he wished he had a bigger penis. Perfect. Whoever came up with that should get what Trey Adams wishes he had: a long extension. Also, the person who leaked the video should be fired. What happened there?
A big extension? I mean, that's
a long extension.
How far? Oh, okay. Never
Yeah.
mind.
And who's leaking these videos? I mean, they're supposed to be private videos. Amazing. The Lakers are working at Dion Waiter. That is great.
Oh, man.
Mike Trout, PGA Tour, collision course, Trouty. John Lester said he marvels when watching Yu Darvish. John, what you'll eventually marvel at the most is the amount of times Darvish lands on the DL. Tristan Wirfs, the most impressive combine I've ever seen from an offensive lineman. Yet, I still have no idea if he'll be any good in the NFL. In 2 games, since James Harden said that thing he said about Giannis. Giannis has played 62 minutes of basketball, scored 73 points, pulled down 33 rebounds, and handed out 12 assists. Dan, you know what Harden did to Giannis?
I don't know.
He poked the bear, Dan.
Okay.
You're so bad at this.
Terrible.
I'm having a tough Monday.
Easy.
That was an easy one.
Yeah, we'll try again. Aaron Judge, injured. Giancarlo Stanton, injured. Luis Severino, injured.
MASH unit.
Out for the year. Dan, you know what the Yankees are?
A MASH unit.
They are a MASH unit.
Do not doubt me and my fluency and my marriage to this creep.
Dan is back. Out of that. Got it before he even finished. You complete me. Let that be a lesson to everyone who tries to throw dirt on Kevin Gilbride's grave. The only time I haven't seen Julian Edelman with Tom Brady was in his mugshot.
For jumping on the hood of a car in Beverly Hills.
He's always there. The Bears saying they will bring in a quarterback to push Mitchell Trubisky after spending the entire offseason announcing to the world Mitchell Trubisky is their guy. Lying season. I feel like relying on the Pouncey brothers to send you a weekly paycheck is no different than relying on me. LA Clippers starting to gel at the right time. The only time David Beckham is not the most handsome guy in the room is when Taylor Twellman is in the same room. In February, Kristaps Porzingis is averaging 25 points per game, or average 25 points per game, 11 rebounds per game, 2 blocks per game, and 4 threes per game. The Knicks traded him for Dennis Smith Jr. and cap space they would eventually use to get guys like Taj Gibson. I hate them. So did James Harden poop himself or what? Vipers.
I think he did.
Well, I think he did as well.
What else could it be?
Right.
Put it on the poll, Guillermo. Did James Harden poop himself?
Vipers, 25-0 over the Defenders any given Sunday. Also, you know what the Vipers did, Dan?
They made a statement.
They pitched a shutout.
Oh, sorry.
And you know what the Defenders did? Didn't defend. Okay. The Dragons have the gave the Battlehawks all they could handle, and it still wasn't enough. Has to be a terrible feeling, by the way. Giving someone all they can handle,
yes, it is,
and it's still not being enough.
Yes.
It's like marriage.
Yes.
I wouldn't agree with that so quickly, Dan. I'm more than 15 years in. You just got married.
You need to sign a long extension.
B.J. Daniels can scoot. B. Silvers. Eyes are too close together to be any good at quarterback. Peter King said they are. They are too close together.
Can I put it on the
Basically
poll?
one eye.
Guillermo, put it on the poll. Can you be a good quarterback if your eyes are too close together?
Cyclops.
Careful.
Sorry. Peter King said Joe Burrow made it clear he wanted the Bengals to sign free agent A.J. Green. Dan, you know what Joe Burrow is doing already in Cincinnati?
Calling the shot.
Yeah! Julian Edelman is the devil on Tom Brady's shoulder. Speaking of the devil, Art Briles. Dan, those are the weekend observations.
Amin, what do you have now? You've become a chronic caller to the show. Now what are you calling in about?
Well, you corrected Stugotz on his pronunciation of Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, but you actually mispronounced it worse than Stugotz did. The name is Mahmoud with a hot H, kind of like when you burn your fingers on the stove. Mahmoud, not Mahmoud. There's no hard K in there. It's like when people say Ahmed. There's no name as Ahmed in the Arabic language. That's something because people can't pronounce the hard H. They decide, oh, make it a K. So if you can't pronounce that hard H, that Mahmoud, you just say Mahmoud, kind of like Stugotz did. Stugotz was right.
Stugotz was right?
Yes.
Holy Stugotz was right.
How is his phone worse? I mean,
it is amazing. Do you not have a functioning phone? Amin Elhassan, if you're going to call so much, get a phone that works.
Pay that man his money.
Funniest thing from the sports weekend coming up in about 20 minutes. Advance Auto Parts will take care of all of your vehicle's needs. Tell them, Guts.
Yep, you may not be able to run, throw, or catch like a professional athlete, but now that it's spring, you can get your lawn looking like a professional sports field, assuming your lawn gear will start, that is. Stop by Advance Auto Parts. They'll test your lawn and garden battery for free. If it needs to be replaced, they have Autocraft lawn and garden batteries starting at just $22.99. Plus, enter the code DAN20 when you buy online to save 20%. Think ahead. Think Advance. Only at Advance Auto Parts.
You're listening to the Sweaty Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
I, too, had Will Fuller V on my bench. What happened?
His name isn't Will Fuller V.
Well, what's the V for?
The fifth.
It's a V. Like if it was the fifth, it would be a 5 with a little TH and a underline. Right?
There you go.
Thank you. Exactly. You should check that. I think it's V. Will Fuller V. If you missed any of the show, you can listen to all 3 hours of the Dan Le Batard Show, plus our Miami-only hour and our Best of Podcasts on demand in the ESPN app. And subscribe to the Le Batard and Friends Podcast Network featuring South Beach Sessions, Stupidity, and Mystery Crate. Please rate and subscribe. New episodes are posted every week, wherever you get your podcast.
Tony, Mike, without giving too much away, what would you tell, as people who were here listening to it, what would you tell Stugotz or Billy or Roy about what happened during our South Beach session that's dropping tomorrow? Like, how would you explain that without giving too much away? Because you don't want to tell people what the punchline is, but it was a bit crazy. You guys, what happened toward the end was crazy.
We weren't expecting it. A lot of things happened while we were kind of waiting in the wings, and it was very introspective on the kind of life that these guys live. And I'll just leave it at that.
This is the South Beach session that is most like our radio show.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. It's between that and the John Amici one that we did that was very serious most of the way, and then we had an ultra-competitive edition of Stump the Meech. But this was the most fun I had recording a South Beach session.
Yeah. Okay. But
lots of twists and turns.
It was. That's all we're saying, though.
Yes.
We're not saying we should say that we were floored that John Tesh has a beef, like like John Tesh ripped somebody in a way that I hope you never know when these celebrities make news or how they make news. But what happened in this interview was John Tesh revealing that he has beef with someone and that he doesn't like someone that we were surprised by.
Who was it?
Stupidity. So before we get to funniest thing from the sports weekend, I'm genuinely curious about this. Is the Wallenda walking across a tightrope over a volcano Wednesday night on ABC? Is that a television event? Because there have been very few times, and I'm trying to think, has there been anyone other than Evel Knievel? Like, I know with the X Games and some of these Red Bull televised things where people are doing spins on bikes off of mountains and stuff, I know that there is the risk of death sometimes when you are watching something, but I feel like this goes, what we're heading toward on Wednesday, where ABC is showing a guy doing a high wire act. And it's a high wire over a volcano, and he can fall. He's lost family members to this. Multiple family members.
Lost his grandfather.
But multiple family members. A family member is paralyzed because of this. Like this family does death-defying things. And I'm trying to remember the last thing that felt exactly like this. Is it David Blaine underwater or whatever it is that David Blaine tries where you don't know if it's a trick or if it's magic or what the hell it is? Like, I I don't know that in our lifetime we have seen a lot of these television events. And my question to you is that thing going to rate? Is that going to do a monster number where people have to watch it at a certain time? That the only way that we can get you not to do streaming or live off the grid or just record something is to risk death over a volcano. Because if it happens at 8 o'clock, and my guess is they're going to string it out, right? How long is that show? Are they going to try and go 2 hours with this? How much time are they going to go?
Well, his wife's actually going for a world record. We don't know exactly what it is because remember he's like, oh, she's going to do something and that's going to be the first part. So get in early and then I'm going to walk across.
Well, but
the
I
wire.
think that this is a test case, right? Like I don't think that this is going to start at 8 p.m. Like I think the show is going to start at 8 p.m. and it'll be a minute before we get to Guy walking across a volcano.
It's a 2-hour spectacular.
Of course, yeah. The setup before, the nervousness. It takes him hours to walk across the volcano.
But I'm asking you guys, what do you think? Do you think it's not going to take hours for him to walk across the volcano? I appreciate your volcano tightrope walking expertise, but hours is not going to take because it's a 2-hour show, and
he'll walk slowly.
My guess is that he won't be in any.
TSL.
My guess is he won't be time spent listening. Put it on the poll, Guillermo at Levitard Show. Will Wallenda be concerned with TSL, time spent listening while on a tightrope over a volcano? Time spent viewing is probably what it should be on television, but I understand.
TSW.
You think he does one of these when he's walking just to kind of make things, because he told us he's been practicing.
You think he's going to wobble?
He's like, whoa. Have people think he's going to fall in?
There he is, Skeptical Billy. Yes.
Give me more of the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
the
Time
guy
out.
falling asleep on you.
Yeah,
You didn't believe the doctor was the doctor?
He looked like a bit of a kook.
I always thought about, is there a doctor on the plane?
That would
If
be-
no one raised their hand after like 10 seconds, would I be the person to raise my hand?
The first thing he did was put the dude's legs over his head. I was like, this is not. And I just went back to sleep. And then the dude next to me went back to sleep on top of me.
By the way, see you at Wendy's in the morning. Available at participating U.S. Wendy's. For all the latest headlines and information, tune in the Sports Center on ESPN Radio all throughout the day.
Billy, this volcano stunt is opposite the Masked Singer.
Is it?
They're
Stupid.
They're coming for the Masked
That's a
Singer's
big L.
ratings. They're trying to get the ratings of the Masked Singer. Although it appears, Stugotz was reading on the internet, it would appear that some people are onto the Wallendas and their 2-hour scam where they only do it the last half hour.
They're onto it. Now, these things always rate very well. I think he walked across the Grand Canyon on a high wire. He did, and that got north of 10 million viewers. But each time he does it, viewership goes down further, right? But it's still the highest rated, thing in its time slot every time he does one
Is
of
it
these.
going to be this week? Is it against the Masked Singer? Will it be?
Well, we'll see. I mean, what happens, the first 90 minutes, no one watches. The final 30 minutes, everyone jumps in when he's walking the wire. And so it jumped up from 4.14 million last time in the first hour to 7.2 million viewers from 9:30 to 10.
This one's getting a lot more publicity, though.
Yeah, but I think people are trying to tell Nick something like, hey, we don't care about this. Just walk across the wire, man.
Masked Singer's on at 8, so really the action on the volcano walk is going to be sometime in the 9 o'clock hour, you'd think. So there's plenty of time to see the Group B finals and who's going to make it into the Super 9 on the Masked Singer, but this probably will cut into people's Lego Masters viewing experience.
We will be doing Funniest Thing from the Sports Weekend in a moment, but can I just ask you guys in advance, because I don't think it's an indelicate thing to ask given the circumstances. The reason this gets those kinds of viewers is not merely because someone is risking life and death. It's because there's the possibility that you watch him die. And what I'm asking you is, how the hell are we going to talk about it the next day if what happens is America is horrified watching a dude fall into a volcano and watching his death? Because it's one of the reasons we're watching. I know that this is an uncomfortable truth, and I know that it's also unlikely, but are there any protective measures in place that would save this person's life if he fails? Like, is there a net down there somewhere?
I mean, if he's doing it with the nets, I'm not intrigued. I don't want to watch it. You either fall into the molten lava,
Yeah, I've never heard of safety lava, Dan, so I feel like he's probably going to get hurt if he falls in the lava.
I think there may be a harness situation where he's attached to the actual cord by a harness.
Do people want to see someone die? Because you could very easily not watch and you won't see someone die. The same as watching.
Oh,
and
I
he's
think
succeeding.
more people will watch. I think more people will watch the next day. They'll be able to find it, and you'll get a lot more people who, faces of death will be attracted to the macabre. Yes, but if what Tony's saying it's true, is there a harness? Because I should have asked that question when we talked to him.
You didn't ask that question?
Well, I just assumed it was life or death, and it might have been a stupid thing to assume.
Yeah.
Am I a bad person for saying that I don't like that it's not life or death? I mean, am I bad?
No, you're an honest person.
That's not the reason you're a bad person.
Oh, okay, good.
Many reasons.
There's so many reasons.
Check that one off.
So many
All right.
reasons before that one on the list of reasons you're a bad person.
Odd time to start being honest, but sure.
Wait a minute, though. It changes everything. Is there a harness?
Dan, he made it seem like there was no harness, but I think there is a harness. So he was kind of downplaying the fact that there was a harness attached.
I think I've seen this before where they plan on not being a harness, but then the weather conditions, we just can't go through with this, so there's going to be a harness. And I'm just like, well, without the real chance of death. I mean, if we're just being real.
I hope he doesn't die. I'm just going to say that because I feel like we haven't expressed that well as a group.
No.
We're hoping he
No.
doesn't die.
Make it, but a little wobble?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Is this a bait and switch? If he didn't admit that there was a harness,
Good point.
and there's a harness,
I mean, that
A little
feels like
disappointed.
fraud to me. It
Yeah.
feels a bit like
I
fraud.
mean, honestly, really bad job out of you during that interview to not ask.
It is. You know what? I can't dispute that. How did I not ask? I just assumed. And one of my questions had the possibility of death, but he didn't volunteer. Yeah, there's no shot of me dying.
Why would he volunteer?
You know what
that?
would be nice? If he gives the wobble, right? And then he kind of falls, but then he catches himself. And then he pulls himself up.
Oh, wow.
And then continues to go down.
Nice.
How do you like that?
Give me more of the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.
Nice little game of poker at the top of the draft. I love that. And it's in Vegas. How about that? What, in Rome?
When in Rome. I don't even understand what Stugotz did.
You mean in Rome and Paris?
Yeah, man.
Venice?
Yeah.
Update the polls in a second. You vote at Le Batard Show on Twitter. You can also follow us at Le Batard Show on Instagram if you like a whole lot of content that isn't related necessarily to what it is that we're doing daily. What do you have there, Stugotz, in terms of the polls at Le Batard Show? How many do we have today before we get to funniest thing from the sports weekend?
We have about 8 or 9 of them.
Okay, so we will get to those in a second, but first we got to do funniest thing.
Hey, people, tell us what in the sport made you laugh hardest this weekend. In this segment we call What Made You Laugh This Weekend. Ha, ha, ha!
Funniest thing for the sports weekend brought to you by Advance Auto Parts. Get a free battery test and free installation with any automotive battery purchase at Advance Auto Parts. Think ahead. Think advance.
Tony, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Guys, I don't think we talked enough about James Harden and him pooping himself, because that was definitely something that happened. I don't care if he wants to throw the blame somewhere else, said it was this, it was that. We know what we saw, and I'm gonna proclaim this now. If you haven't ripped a fart while playing sports, you're not doing it right. It's happened to all of us. It's happened to the best of us. It's happened to me.
Wow.
So it was a wet one?
You were
No, it was a dry one, but still a fart nonetheless.
well,
No,
actually,
but
he
I'm
was asking about
Harden.
Harden's. He was asking you to
Harden was
investigate.
much more than a wet one. We don't know exactly what happened there,
It has
but
to
it
be
was bad.
caca that was on that butt, right?
It can only be.
Guillermo, what was the funniest thing from the sport? It can only be. That's it.
I mean, what else would it be?
What else is that color in that area?
Agreed.
But caca.
Guillermo, what is the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
Dan, Bad Bunny's latest album, YHLQMDLG, came out. And to celebrate it, he was kind of, just doing things that young people do, young musicians. So he was at the Heat game, and he decided to walk on the court while Triple H's music was playing for whatever reason.
Well, he's very. He thought he was going to entertain the crowd, and
he did.
He's a very important person. Bad Bunny is.
He is a very important person. And he started doing the Triple H thing where he's spitting out the water. And then there was a security guard who was not super interested in Bad Bunny and what he was doing. He was just like, can you please get off the court?
Well, you shouldn't be doing that on the court. There are millions of dollars running up and down the court that doesn't need to fall down.
What is he supposed to do, Dan? What's Bad Bunny
Bunny's
supposed to do when Triple H's music starts?
Fair enough. Roy, what was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
The flop that LeBron James had while Dylan Brooks is guarding him. That was bad.
He does those
He
once in a
does
while.
those every once in a while. What about you, Mike Ryan? They should fine him. Should they fine him for that? There's a fine for flopping. Okay, Roy, taking LeBron's money.
I have a new favorite GIF, and yes, I call it GIF. Get over it. Replacing the Alonzo Mourning GIF is Sporting Kansas City manager Peter Vermees, who in 3 seconds flat gave us bleep off in declarative, interrogative, and I took a red eye. I forgot the other version.
He did in 3 different ways.
Imperative.
In 3 different ways, he said bleep off. He was talking to an official, I assume?
Yeah, well, apparently the GIF is all out of sequence, because what I think happened was a linesman told him to bleep off, which is where you get the sequence of bleep off. Oh, bleep off. Bleep off.
That is how it happened.
But when you see the GIF, it closes with the question.
He
bleep
was,
off.
but he was. It did seem like he was initially disoriented by the first bleep off bomb, and so it was an incredulous sort of like bleep off.
Yeah, but I kind of prefer the sequence, which is bleep off. Bleep off. Bleep off?
What about you, Stugotz? What was the funniest thing from the sports weekend?
JaVale McGee went for a jersey exchange with Zion Williamson after the game last night. Zion gave his to JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee, trying to return the favor, tried to give his jersey to Zion. Zion did not want it.
That's funny.
Zion runs so weird down the court.
You have questions? That's what I was saying a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, that
white
thing on his leg.
It doesn't fit.
It doesn't fit. Thank you.
It's
It
supposed
does
to be
not
skin tight. Why
fit.
is it baggy?
My funniest thing from the sports weekend is that a hockey game was delayed 9 minutes by the entrapment of a repelling Aquaman's wig. There were a series of superheroes
That happens,
rappelling down.
I went to a Six Flags show once. It was like a stunt show of Batman and
But
Robin.
his wig got clogged, and so Aquaman got to the ice and not only didn't have his wig, but also delayed the game by 9 minutes.
Yeah, I went to a stunt show, and it starts with Batman and Robin repelling, and Robin makes it down, but Batman's cape gets stuck. And Batman was just twirling in the air, and he's like, "Get them, Robin!" He's still trying. The show must go on, and then it just became Robin. Fond memory. Six Flags, man. Sometimes they're hit or miss. Mostly miss.
The Cape Crusader.
That'll happen was not the answer I was
And the Boy Wonder.
expecting when I said what I said. Like, you came in with some expertise. Yep, I've seen that happen before. So I'm saying the funniest thing from the sports weekend is that Aquaman was rappelling down through the rafters into a hockey arena onto the ice, and the game was delayed by 9 minutes because on that rappel, his wig got lost and then caught in a way that ensnared him.
He was high enough off the ice that I feel like they could have played the game with him there, right?
Dangling.
He was, but I don't understand how Mike was able to retort with serious, knowledge and expertise.
It happens.
That'll happen to you.
Yeah, anytime a superhero repels, it's a tricky situation.
Well, I've told you that story before, and now we're not going to get into the polls. We'll do that tomorrow. But I've told you the story before of one of the initial Marlin seasons, the Marlin mascot. I don't know whether it was opening day or it must have been opening day. They had Marlins mascot, as the Marlins mascot, was going to parachute into the ballpark. And as he was coming down, the head flew off of the mascot, and he landed headless. And I, as the newspaper columnist for the Miami Herald, said, I don't want to cover whatever this is today, opening day. I'm going to see the scared kids that this thing landed among. Like, I can't imagine. You're sitting there in a yard, you're playing with your kids, and what falls out of the sky is Billy the Marlin's severed head. And so I go to the Navy SEAL who was jumping out of this airplane to interview him, saying, like, this is funny. Profound shame. The guy is just totally ashamed, which brings me to, was Aquaman totally ashamed yesterday that he delayed a game for 9 minutes because his wig, like, that was Aquaman's big moment.
You should have played on. Yeah.
I'm looking at it now. I'm with Billy. Yeah, I mean,
just play underneath him is what it is that you wanted people to do. Like, how does this work? There were how many superheroes rappelling down, all of whom were able to do it with their wigs intact?
Whoa, the entire Justice League repelled down?
I don't know how many they were. It seeed like there were 8 or 9 superheroes.
That definitely was the Justice League.
And only one of them got tangled. So we will get an answer on all this important reporting, investigative work that Billy and Tony are doing right now. Who are those superheroes? Is it the Justice League? Because all of them landed correctly, and I got to be honest, they looked like they were pretty mad at Aquaman. I mean, because
Aquaman always remains useless outside
right?
the sea.
It's the frozen water that got him, right? Is Aquaman someone who has trouble with ice? Do we know? I didn't even know Aquaman had a wig. Did you?
Nah, I thought it was normal hair. Tied on his head.
They're trying to look like Momoa.
Is that everyone? Everyone's trying to look like Momo.
We will talk to you mañana. This was the Dan Le Batard Show on ESPN Radio.